Very good afternoon, respected participants. Our President AIMS, Professor Nandagopal, the board members, Professor Prasad Rao, and other members from different parts of the country who have joined this particular program. I am very, very happy to moderate this particular session. Before I formally proceed, it is my customary to introduce myself. I am Professor Narayana Reddy, Regional Vice President, South Association of Indian Management School, working as a director at CBIT Proddatur. On behalf of Association of Indian Management Schools, I welcome all of you to this very important and interesting session, inspiring young leader session on building institutions of excellence, stakeholders and their roles. As we all know that the country is having number of institutions and very few institutions are excelling and well recognized compared to many. There might be a strong reason for why it is, and it is very, very important at this stage to have an understanding about this particular various dimensions of the institutional building of institutions. And I'm very, very happy to introduce briefly about the Association of Indian Management Schools. Association of Indian Management Schools, AIMS, is established in the year 1988 with a primary motto to represent the institutions of management across the country to the regulatory bodies. And it is having more than 800 institutions, and it is highly impact-making networking body, and it has a strong support from national and international arena of institutions. AIMS has been involved in protecting the interest of management institutions or member institutions from various issues related to the regulations from the government side, professionalization of management education, creation and the dissemination of management knowledge through its various activities like roundtables of deans and directors, faculty members, and also the student development events, organizing number of conventions, national and international level seminars and workshops, and also the publication and distribution of AIMS Journal, one of the highly acclaimed journal that AIMS is publishing, and also funding lot of for research projects to member institutions, and also assisting institutions in conducting various developmental activities. Of late, the AIMS has diversified its activities to benefit the faculty members and also the students by organizing the knowledge sharing sessions and also inspiring young leaders sessions. We started this since September onwards. It has been highly acclaimed sessions over a period of time. In this process, today is another important day in conducting the webinars. And today's speaker is well-known speaker at national and international level. In fact, it is a fortunate for me to moderate this session and also introduce him to the participants. Professor T.V. Rao is currently the chairman, T.V. Rao Learning Systems, a former professor and board member of IIM Ahmedabad. Dr. Rao is the founder, president of National HRD Network, and has been at the forefront of the HRD movement in the country. I always feel that he is the father of HR in this country. Dr. Rao worked as a short-term consultant to UNESCO Bangkok, USAID Indonesia, UNIDO, Malaysia, and the Commonwealth Secretariat, London, and as HRD consultant in India to over 100 organizations in the public and private sector. Dr. Rao has received many awards, including the Ravi J. Mathai Fellow Award from Association of Indian Management Schools, Asia Pacific HR Professional of the Year 2019, and Lifetime Achievement Award from Indian Academy of Management. And he authored more than 60 books and also hundreds of articles related to HRD and also leadership development. It is really fortunate for AIMS to have him as the main speaker today, and I welcome him on behalf of all of you. Now I request Professor Rao to take over the session. That the today's session, as I mentioned to you, the building institutions of excellence is one of the important topic and burning topic, and a lot of roles are there for various stakeholders too. Sir, welcome.
Thank you very much, Dr. Narayana Reddy garu. And thanks to Association of Indian Management Schools, all of you who are involved. I think the day they conferred this Ravi Mathai fellowship on me almost about 8-9 years ago in Indore, I said that I'll be happy anytime to facilitate anything on institution building. And ever since I've been, whenever there was a little opportunity, I've been giving a little bit of my time and whatever knowledge I have. Are you able to hear me, Professor Narayan?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Well, I'm getting some signal here which says that wavelength is not right and so on. I think normally it works fine, but sometimes it is erratic. So thanks once again for inviting me. There are a couple of reasons why I'm quite happy to talk on this topic. Reason number one is, in my view, management has become more important today across the globe in every sector. If you are looking at the economy, I think across the world, in the past, we excluded a number of organizations and institutions from business, which is particularly education and health. Today, education, health become, I think, the biggest of the businesses across the world. And therefore, I think the moment you say MBA, Masters of Business Administration or Business Management, some of us are wiser of not using the term business, but some others, I think, equate business as everywhere, including, I think, politics also has become business, education is business, health is business, government is business. So I think management has become very universal. The second important thing that is happening is, I think, leadership. Most of B schools in the last 15-20 years have articulated their vision and mission as, although they are management schools, their primary objective is to build leaders, entrepreneurs, leaders and entrepreneurs. I think this has become the focus. So much so today, I think the term management includes leadership, management includes entrepreneurship, management includes everything that is good. I think I would like to say that. That's why I thought it is very important that every B school or every management school, which is a member of AIMS or not a member of AIMS, should strive for excellence and make an impact. If you make an impact, you become a big change agent in the society. And I think it is possible to do that because we have excellent examples in our own country, which unfortunately are not talked about. We are all the time looking at the West and we are saying excellent institutions as though they come from other countries. But I think we have excellent institutions, and often we measure excellence only by the rankings. I'm not very sure. I mean, rankings is a good indicator of excellence, but I would like to believe that even if you don't figure out in these rankings, the global rankings, which in my view sometimes are sometimes is faulty because they do not recognize a lot of research that goes on indigenously in countries like ours. Sometime during the Golden Jubilee year of IIM Ahmedabad, I was reviewing the number of researches conducted in India by the Center for Management of Agriculture itself, one sub-unit of IIM Ahmedabad. There were about 8,000 publications in a matter of about 25 to 30 years. But none of these publications figure out globally, or they are not published elsewhere, because these publications are meant, the research is meant for use by indigenously by India, Indian Agriculture Ministry, agriculture universities and others. Whereas we count only those researchers that are published in the so-called top class, A-class journals, which often are said, even financed by some of these journals, they say are financed by pharma industry and other industries. So we don't figure out a lot of research that happens here. So I strongly believe that great institutions in India are rarely talked about. I'm sure most of you who have been observing the recent serial on the Rocket Boys, there were 2 serials. The person who is talked about, both Homi Bhabha as well as Dr. Sarabhai, I think these are all great institution builders. It was Sarabhai who started Ahmedabad Management Association much before IIM got started. A great institution today, runs a whole lot of programs. And IIM Ahmedabad itself, Physical Research Laboratory, and above all these is ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization, which has created and has nurtured so many people, including people like Dr. Abdul Kalam and things of that kind. So these are all institutions, great institutions we don't talk about. That is why when you said, give a kind of a seminar for AIMS, I said, I would like to do this on building excellent institutions. I want to say that it is high time that we recognize excellence in every institution. Even if you are a less known institution, you don't figure out in the rankings, the top 50 rankings or 100 rankings or 150 rankings, including by that of the Ministry of HRD. I would want to say by stating, do not get disappointed. Work for it. Ranking is only one of the ways of looking at excellence. There are many other ways of looking at excellence. And in fact, I would like to start by saying that normally when you look at what makes an institution great or excellent, you look at global rankings, local rankings, look at placements, salaries, number of applicants, growth of the number of applicants, impact on users, publications, consultancy, and financial parameters like profits, donations, fee collected, subsidies offered, etc., etc. I think this is one set of tangible kind of things that you can see. But there are a lot of intangible things that make great an institution great, which includes, I think, providing academic leadership and leadership in governance. I think an institute should be known for the way it is governed. I still remember sometime in the year 1974, at IIM Ahmedabad, Professor Mathai Uday Parikh and I offered a program on managing change in academic institutions. And we had about 40 participants who are heads of institutions, including that of the some vice chancellors and the director of IIT Madras and others. And 4 or 5 days they spent at the institute. They said, we have learned a lot about this institution by looking at the way the institute functions. So it is one thing to understand what is being taught in the classroom, what is being said. It is another to actually observe what happens. They talked of, I think, the vision, purpose and vision of the institute, the way I think everyone stuck to the program, and the way I think they were listened to, and a whole lot of other kind of things. So in terms of the non-tangibles, academic leadership and institutional culture becomes a very important part of excellence. It should be the culture, even if you are a small institution and don't figure out in the ranking, if you people who are a part of the institution are proud of the values that you promote, the vision that you have, you are working, you are a college, you are an institution in a corner of the country, in a town which less often visited by any dignitaries. But I think you are running a program and a management program where I think the faculty are very proud of the institute. Faculty are respected, students respect the faculty, students learn quite a bit of it. And curricula are made to suit, I think, the kind of local requirements there are. There are innovations that are going on. There is enough of autonomy for faculty and the students to do project work and things like that. there is a passion on the part of faculty and staff, and there is a good image, then I would say that you are already an institution of excellence. So it is not always in the rankings. I would want to say that excellence is a feeling that all the people that within the institution, all the participants or the stakeholders of the institution have. We have written for the Golden Jubilee year in the year 2010, when IIM Ahmedabad completed 50 years, we brought out a book, which I'm sure some of you have access to this book, Nurturing Institutional Excellence. We took a lot of case studies, including those who left IIM, became heads of institutions of other IIMs and others. And then we have a whole lot of essays in this, talking about what are the dimensions of excellence and so on. So borrowing from this, I would say components of good institutions include vision, vision-driven organization, leadership, empowerment, how much of professional initiatives you have taken, proaction, communication in the institution or with the outside world, planning culture, participative decision-making, loyalty, learning environment, renewal mechanisms. Periodically, the institution should renew itself. In fact, the new IIM Act says that every 3 years, all IIMs should get themselves renewed by appointing a committee to get into this. I had the good fortune of reading through at least one of the reports, and it's a wonderful report where a group of people who are not a part of the institution look at the institute and say, these are the good things that you're doing, these are probably areas that you can work on and so on. So this kind of renewal mechanisms. I still remember the time when Professor Ravi Mathai, who was the first full-time director of IIM Ahmedabad, after about 7 years of setting it up and stabilizing quite a bit of it, he decided to step aside and provide opportunity for new leadership to take charge of the institute. At that time, he constituted a committee called as IIMA Review Committee. And when the committee is deliberating and came up with the report, he announced his resignation and he said, now it is time, now that the faculty are deliberating on the new directions, it is time for the institute to have a new leader. I think what a trend he had set up to say that periodically the leader of the institution should get the institution reviewed and bring new leadership, socialize new leadership as the institutional review is going on and so on. That's what we call as a renewal mechanism. Willingness to change, faculty development, process sensitivity, and infrastructure, superstructure, a whole lot of things. These are some of the components of. Now, I would like to say that institution building or building institutions of excellence is not the job only of some people. Normally, we say the most important stakeholder, the most important person who manages or who brings excellence in the institution is its director, principal, of course, universities, vice chancellors, and so on. And there are different designations, but normally director of the institute is the person to whom a lot of it is attributed. But I would like to say that while I agree that the director of institution can make or mar the institution, there are other stakeholders who are equally important. I want to stress this term, equally important. Now, why do I say equally? Because suddenly if you find one of them don't function, you find excellence goes down the drain. Now, you think about it. I mean, you have excellent leadership, but students are not good. Can you call that institution as excellent? Or leader is good, but faculty are not up to mark. They are valueless. They don't take their job seriously. Or leader is good, but the government, the board and others are creating issues. Or you don't have support staff. Alumni don't take much of interest, and there are no significant alumni. I think if you look at various stakeholders, it becomes very clear that institution building, while rests to a large extent in the hands of the head of the institution, all the other stakeholders become very important. Sometimes we ask this question, who is most critical among the stakeholders? Let me stop here. Would you agree with this? Would you want to put in the message, in your view, who is most important of all these stakeholders? Can some of you put in the chat box?
Yeah, participants may respond, please.
Yeah. I like to see, why are there any views, or would you agree with me that each one of these 6 or 7 stakeholders I mentioned have a critical role to play?
Yes, sir. From my side, I'm sure that all are equally important. As you mentioned, even one is less than the other will lead to downgrading the excellence.
Yeah, somebody said director, somebody said students.
Each has a critical role to play. Yeah, yes.
Students all.
Yeah, good, sir. They're supporting your argument.
Yeah, theoretically, I think everyone will support when I say this. But only when something goes wrong, we find 1 or 2 actors, 1 or 2 stakeholders. Most of the time, the blame comes on the director, the head of the institution, because we provide a very, I agree with that. I think because he or she is the person charged with the responsibility, very difficult, complex kind of responsibility. It is said the director, head of the institution, should manage the board if the board is not doing well. In fact, Ravi Mathai used to tell me, this was a very interesting thing. In fact, I joined work with Ravi on education systems at IIM Ahmedabad. Uday Parikh, Ravi Mathai and I started the education group. And we also started working in a very interesting project in rural Rajasthan, somewhere in a Javaja field. Some of you may have heard of it. So every now and then we used to travel together, and Ravi would share. And in one of the trips, Ravi just returned from a meeting with. He was on the board of escorts. He returned from a meeting. In another, he returned from a meeting with Voltas. A third one, he returned from a meeting with on the board of Bharat Earth Movers. Then I said that Ravi now. In fact, I think most people in IIM Ahmedabad used to wonder that what is Ravi Mathai doing after he stepped aside as director? We don't see him do much. And you know what Ravi said? All these are organizations where I happen to be on the board. And he mentioned to me, do you know what I had done? When I am on the board, when I was a director and on the board of Bharat Earth Movers, Bharat Earth Movers was thinking small. There was something like a 70 crore company, and in one of the board meetings, I suggested to them, why don't you think of becoming a 700 crore company in the next 5 to 10 years? So the CMD of the company asked Mathai, how is that possible? So Professor Mathai apparently said that I will send one of my professors from IIM to tell you how is it possible. He sent Professor S.K. Bhattacharya to do long-term planning for Bharat Earth Movers. And you know, Bharat Earth Movers actually moved from a 70 crore company to 700 crore company in the few years later. The same way in escorts used to have a lot of understanding with IIM. I think the point was, as a director, when he was on the board not merely to give to feel that he is a board member. He is using the board as an opportunity to market his faculty. That is the most important thing. And not only that, he would work with each of the board members and to make sure each board member contributes to the well-being of the institution. I'm sure most of you know, IIM Ahmedabad was set up as a society with about 100 organizations, about 70, 80 organizations shipping and funding and so on. So I think all these, so as a director, it is said, your job is to manage the board, manage the faculty, develop the faculty, and develop also the curricula. Now, you don't develop the curricula, but I mean, you use faculty members, you empower the faculty members. So normally, if you look at all the things, anything goes wrong, we tend to think that the director is the person, or the head of the institution is the most important kind of a thing. But I like to propose in this meeting, for discussion's sake, suppose you don't have a good director. what do? You can't always find such directors who can manage the board, who can manage the students, who can manage the faculty, manage the government, manage politicians and things of that kind. I think it's very difficult to find nowadays such kind of directors. Suppose for some reason you don't have such an all-round kind of a director. So who will make sure that the institution becomes an institution of excellence? Now that is the title that today I have said. Every stakeholder, I think, should take responsibility. If you don't have good leadership, I think somebody else should take up the leadership. Now, who is that somebody else who takes up leadership? I would think the faculty. Now, faculty would normally say that, look, we don't have the good director. How can I do this? Now, this is a lot of, I think, self-imposed kind of difficulties. But having said that, I don't want to say that every institution has such kind of autonomy that faculty can really, but I would certainly think that it is important for faculty members to assume this role and say, we can't surrender our institutional excellence only to one person. So either you work with the director or the head of the institution, or you start, assuming that you have a little bit of autonomy for yourself, or you start working on by yourself. Now, how do you work by yourself to become to contribute to excellence? Now, that is where, in terms of the role of faculty, I would like to say a few things. Faculty. Now, I have written a book some time ago where I looked at these effective people and leaders in the making. The two books which may have some insights are there. I would start by saying that it is the faculty who build leaders. Teachers build leaders. Directors don't build leaders. Directors create environment for faculty to build leaders. For some reason, if you don't have a director who can't create that kind of a thing, a teacher does not surrender his or her autonomy, his or her competence. I don't have a good director, therefore let me sit and relax. I think the important thing is to say that I am a man on mission. If I am a faculty member, I have 3,000 hours in a year. I always wonder, I tell faculty members, if you work 300 days, even if you work 250 days, multiplied by 8, you have about 2,000 hours. You are required to teach only for about 200 to 300 hours. I think in most of the IIMs and other institutions, you are required to teach only about 200 hours. We teach about 6 courses, equivalent of 30 sessions, about 180, I think you have done your job, that's what they say. And for that you prepare. So for a 200-hour teaching, you prepare another 400 hours, 600 hours. So you still have 2,000 hours, which means 1,400 hours available for you. So do not surrender your 1,400 hours by saying that we don't have a good director, therefore I'm not going to lead. I think you must feel that you build leaders. This is what in our recent book, Leaders in the Making by Arvind and me, we interviewed about 30 leaders who made an impact in the HR field, very well-known people like Santrut Mishra, then Anil Khandelwal, Anil Sachdev, Satish Pradhan, Dwarkanath, whole lot of, I think, very well-known kind of leaders in India. We interviewed them, and almost all of them said that the foundations for their leadership were laid partly in the family, but largely in the institutions they attended. Some of them remembered the teachers, how they shaped their life. Now, in my book on effective people, I defined an effective professor, effective teacher as one. There is one full chapter devoted to effective teacher, as one who not merely does his or her job as a teacher, but does something more. In fact, he or she is not merely a syllabus follower. That person is a syllabus creator, an institution builder. Now, I have given examples like Anil Gupta, or I'm sure most of you know the person who started SpeakMackey, Kiran Seth, or two people, Jagdeep Chokar and Trilochana Shastri, who started Forum for Democratic Reforms. I'm sure you keep seeing every time there is elections. There is a quote by FDR talking about how many of them have cases, how many of them what is the kind of the background they have, and things like that. Anil Gupta, who started Honeybee Network, and even now he is very active even after his retirement. He does a lot of interesting kind of work. Khandwala, who continues to write even at the age of 80 and odd. Ishwar Dayal, Pulin Garg, Nilima Acharji, McGrath. These are some of the people who are mentioned by leaders in our book, Leaders in the Making. So I want to say that if you are a faculty member who see your mission as building leaders, you are already contributing to excellence. So you create leaders, and you cannot say that I will create leaders only if my leader of the institution is good. I think if your leader is institution is good or bad, I think your job is to create leaders, and you have to take this as a mission. So I want to say faculty have a phenomenal amount of role to play in building excellence. You create a learning culture, you pay individual attention to students, guide them. You guide one student and help the person to work out the career. I think you see how much indebted that person is. Manage their time and contributions. They have to manage the time, 2,000 hours, 2,500 hours, rather than wasting the time. Design curricula, teach well, do research, generate experiences. So reading, reflecting, articulating, guiding, experience creating. This is the way faculty contribute to excellence in institutions. So this is one part of the stakeholders. So those of you who are listening to my talk, if you are a faculty member, I think you have a phenomenal role to play. It doesn't matter what kind of a director you have. You're the master of your time. If you're going to spend 20 years or 30 years of work life in an institution, you have 30 multiplied by 2,000, 60,000 hours available to you to build leaders, to make a mark and things of that kind. So this is one important role of the stakeholders. The second thing I would say that who are these people are not, I think I've seen many students in the recent past who say they passed through an institution, but they never met to the director. They have not seen, except maybe the director comes for the inauguration and maybe at the valedictory function. Even the valedictory, if it is done by the postgraduate program chairman, sometimes by the vice chancellor, they may not get to see. That means it doesn't matter. Even if you as a student, you have your own role. In fact, this is what I would like to, since Dr. Reddy Garu and others, you always, when you announce these seminars, you have put a note there. Please encourage your students to attend this. So I'm not sure if there are any students in this, otherwise I'm sure they would be listening, seeing on the YouTube. I think students have an important role to play. In fact, today, it has become self-regulated learning. In 1985, I reviewed the first year curricula of B schools across the world. And I discovered the best of the schools across the world, Stanford, Michigan, Harvard, all of them, and IIM, Ahmedabad, Calcutta, and so on an average, use about 500 to 600 contact hours during the first year of MBA, 500 to 600. We said this is too much because we also worked out how much the students are required to read and so on, and we felt this is heavily burdened. We're not letting them think. We reduced it by 10%, later another 10%. So it has come down to something like 450 hours of contact teaching in a year. And a year, if you have 250 days, again, multiplied by 10 to 2,500 hours. So now I want to take the student point of view. You just have teachers contacting you, connecting with you in the classroom for about 500 hours. What are you doing in the remaining 2,000 hours that is there in a day, in the year? So I think if you look at your own kind of a time, can you create your own kind of learning experiences? Can you create your own learning avenues? Most of students who have become leaders, emerged as leaders later, I think use educational institutions as good avenues by participating in extracurricular activities. I think in some of the B schools, there are as many as 15 to 20 clubs. You join any one of the club, there may be marketing club, there may be small industry club, there may be entrepreneurship club, all kinds of clubs. So you can initiate things which give an opportunity for you to express your leadership talent. So I would want to say, today, quite unlike in the past, since it has become fairly the learner-driven kind of curricula, it's possible for students to design their own projects. In fact, I would want to suggest to B schools that why don't you think of flexibility to the extent of about 25% the students design their own projects. In fact, in IIMs, I think quite a few IIMs, they have students working with faculty in the second year, have an independent project, sometimes 6 credits, sometimes 9 credits and things of that kind. I would go today, given self-initiated learning, I think go on to as much as about 25% self-initiated learning. And I would also suggest to the students, why don't you make demands on the faculty? And there are ways in which you can make demands. I still remember when I was teaching at IIM Ahmedabad, by the time you start with second year, the faculty has to market their own courses. So there is a marketing session. Like if I'm offering a course on change management, I'll have to, students will come from those who are likely to be taking an elective in the second year, and then I have to talk about it and so on. So I think this is very interesting. If you create, students can create that opportunities where they can give feedback to the faculty, they can suggest and come up with new kind of demands and so on. I think it is possible. If you look at your faculty in a very positive way, see them as people who build leaders, respect them, then I think you can do a hell of a lot, because it is not an adversary relationship. It is a relationship of collaboration. It's a relationship of building each other. Gone are the days when people are likely to say that there is only a teacher and the taught. Now today, the taught are the teachers. That means the learners are also teachers. We learn from our own kind of students. So if the students have something which they can also teach to the faculty, and if you take upon yourself this particular role of now I am a part of this excellence building, and I want to make my institution as an institution of excellence, I think nothing can prevent you. Some of you can put your heads together and do a hell of a lot. So I would stop here in terms of the students part, but I want to come and talk about quite under the staff, support staff role. We used to have an administrative officer by name R.C. Chip. He's still alive. He's 93, 94, active in Ahmedabad. R.C. Chip used to, every time we had something on education, he would actively participate. He will collect data. He used to work with CSIR. He got some information from there. He would link with the government, a whole lot of interesting things. The administrative officer is not merely a registrar. The administrative officer is a significant functionary in creating a support culture where everything goes according to a system, according to a discipline, and things like that. I mentioned a few names again. I think there used to be a person by name Santanam. I must take his name, acknowledge his name. In fact, I think at one point of time, I recommended National HRD Network that the support staff rarely get recognized. If I have to recognize one person who I think made a lot of difference in executive, in managing the MDPs in IIM Ahmedabad, this is Santanam. He's not the only one. There are many people, but I'm taking Santanam to symbolize others. Santanam never lived on the campus. He lived outside, about 4 kilometers from IIM Ahmedabad. Sometimes when a program started, 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, he gets up and comes to the MDC and make sure all the rooms are set well. I think the classroom is set well, program material is ready, and forms are distributed. When the evaluation comes, the photograph is arranged, certificates are organized. Everything spick and span. Santanam means a personification of hard work, punctuality, systematization, and so on. Ganapati was another person who used to manage the entire, more than the postgraduate program chairman. It is the officer who, if you have to give a gold medal, now getting the gold medal design, going and negotiating and getting the permission from RBI, doing a whole lot of things. I'm just giving an illustration. If a certificate has to be changed, if a logo has to be put, if the evaluation grades have to be examined, you see, I think the amount of work the support staff have done. I also remember at one point of time, I keep quoting this example, when in the initial stages of Indian School of Business, I think the Indian School of Business started borrowing a lot of money. I think there are quite a few people who donated, but they didn't have enough because the kind of infrastructure they have built in and things like that. I think ISB started earning a good part of their income from their executive development programs. And those days there were hardly 4 to 5 full-time faculty. Most of the faculty were coming from other countries. But the important set of people who made ISB's education programs popular are the program managers. The program managers used to go around and interact with industry and find out what are the needs of industry. And once they found out the needs, they would look at what kind of faculty are there who can meet the needs from across the world. And they will connect the faculty, organize education, executive education programs, and executive education program became a significant contributor to the income of ISB at the time. Even today, I'm sure some of you know, besides the postgraduate program, the executive education program contributes quite a bit. I can give many examples of excellent staff we had. I'm sure some of you who interacted with Ahmedabad Management Association know KK Nair, how he built up. KK Nair built up Ahmedabad Management Association. KK Nair was program placement secretary in IIM in mid-70s. 75, 76, he left and joined AMA and built up. And later he retired as executive director. There were some people whom I have mentioned. All that I want to say is the support staff have a very significant role to play. Formal leaders, of course, are institution builders, which includes the directors. Alumni is another stakeholder. Alumni have a significant role to play. I think many of the B schools have neglected what is it that the alumni can do in terms of contributing to this. I will share, maybe I will not take too much of time, but I think alumni, they need to understand when alumni are there at the institution, quite often we think, as students, once you graduate, you become an alumni. But when you are a student, you may not have actually understood the entire culture, because students know the dorm culture, hostel culture, the classroom culture. But there is something more than the classroom culture, the dorm culture. How curricula are designed, how the entire faculty are administered, how the faculty are evaluated, how the staff are evaluated, what are the competencies. I think the student experience only consists of about 20% of what goes on in the institution. About 80%, the student graduates without knowing the real culture. All that they hear is the vision of the institute and so on, but how is it being practiced and so on. So my recommendation to alumni is, when you go back to your institution, please try to understand what you have not understood. I think there is a lot you may not have known about your institution, because when you are there as a student, your focus is only on your curriculum, your grades, your getting out, your placement and things like that. But once you are out, you have experienced the world, when you get back to the institution, I think you might find phenomenal opportunities for you to teach and learn. Teach, I think you can offer courses, learn. So alumni become a significant contributors to the excellence building, because you're coming back, you learn theory, you have seen the practice, you know the gap. So you can come back and you can, to the extent possible, try to bridge the gap. Of course, the gap between theory and practice can never be bridged, because if theory becomes practical, then theory ceases to exist or practice ceases to exist. So I always say that there will always be gap. I think it is fun going back to the institution and teaching to them. I have seen, my own experience was that in some of the IIMs, the alumni want to come every 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And one thing they meticulously do is to honor the faculty, which is nice of them. But I think something more important they do, the alumni share with themselves, with each other, their own experiences, and meet the current group of students and share their experiences. I think this is a great way to build excellence in institutions. Being in touch with the current students as alumni, Most of the alumni think that the institutions need only financial assistance from them. I would say it is not the financial assistance, it is your intellectual capital. You can participate in recruiting, teaching, guiding, sponsoring projects, helping in. I think that is the way you can build excellence. I don't want to say much about the board of management. I think board of management is an important thing. I have been on the boards of some of these institutions, but one thing I always have a question mark is board meets once in a quarter, 4 times in a year, 2 to 3 hours of meeting. That means you are giving about 12 hours in a year. Can you build excellence by just about 12 hours without knowing what is happening inside the institution? Now, my suggestion to any boards of management is, I think first understand again your institution. Normally, the leaders of the institution, the directors of the institution are afraid of the board meeting the students and faculty because they are quite afraid that normally in an institution, if you are a faculty member, you only crib on the negatives, or you're a student, you only crib, you only complain. So the directors or heads of institutions feel the board should be kept separate, should not meet the students, should not meet the faculty, because they get to know a lot of cribbing, as though the cribbing is only meant to be to criticize the head of the institution and so on. Unfortunately, this divide is what prevents excellence, because if you don't know your institution, if you don't know the concerns of people, how can you solve them? So my most important recommendation of the board is, please try to understand. Now, try to understand doesn't mean that you should be all the time there and looking at the institution, breathing down the neck of the head of the institution. You should respect that person, give autonomy. But you can use tools like periodic institutional culture surveys and things like that. Conduct a survey, get a survey done. You can ask the faculty themselves to do it, have access to some of the faculty meetings. I think mentor some of the faculty. I think you can do a hell of a lot. I think you need to decide how much time you as a board member, each board member is going to. I think attending board meetings is only the minimum that one can look at. Wherever you belong, I want to conclude by saying, whatever category you belong, don't underestimate your role. You can make a difference. I would like to say, institutions are opportunities for learning and using your talent. When you use your talent, you multiply it and you grow. It's not only the institution that grows, but you also grow. This is what I think I have said a lot. I think I should stop here. When I get involved, I lose track of my time. I think we still have some 10 minutes or 15 minutes, I suppose.
Yes, sir. We have.
I hope I have talked sense. All that I want to say is institutions are opportunities for everyone to learn, whether you are a student, alumni, faculty, board member. I think you must look at them as learning avenues, not simply say that I am there to contribute. Yes, of course, the best way you can learn is by contributing. And excellence is not built by one. Excellence is built by all. I think they'll have to build together. So even if you are a small institution, you don't figure out in the list of the 50 or 100 of the rank holders, does not matter. It doesn't mean that you are not excellent. You can be excellent. You may not be noticed. I think you need to notice yourself. And if you say, we have an excellent board, we have excellent teachers, we have excellent director, excellent support staff, I think you have already made it. So that is how you build excellence. Thank you very much, sir. I'll be very happy to take any comments.
Thank you very much, sir. Of course, there are no questions as such. Actually, rather, everybody appreciated your sharing of knowledge with them. Then the common observation which I noticed from among these people, you have in your presentation, you have set the best standards.
Yeah.
The director, the faculty, student, non-teaching, the alumni, and the board.
Yes.
Etc. etc. You set the standards for the best institution. Unfortunately, the most of the participants, if not all, at least majority of them, they are from second rank or third rank level of institutions. And as you know very well, these institutions are not in a position to, because of various reasons, they are not able to reach that level. Therefore, the participants' observation is uh, they expect how to make these ordinary institutions move towards the excellent institutions, actually. Because a lot of apprehensions about the role of the director himself or herself may not have the positive attitude toward the faculty. Similarly, the environment in the ordinary average institutions is that more of examination oriented system is going on rather than moving to the higher side where real learning should take place. So that's why some of the participants observed that directors should be with a particular standards, students should be with a particular standard, and faculty should be with a particular standard. Actually, that's why though we have more than 400 institutions, business schools or departments, or affiliated institutions or university departments, but they are not placed well in terms of ranking or in terms of creating a brand for themselves. And what might be the reason?
I appreciate this point. I think what you are talking or what they are saying is the reality.
Yeah.
But let me say, the reality, a large part of this reality is in our mind. I'm not saying, therefore, it's not true. It is true. It's in our mind. But what happens is, because we think so, we don't act anymore. So we give up. That is what is the biggest problem. Now, I ask myself, as I was listening to you, I am asking myself this question. If Anil Gupta, Dr. Anil Gupta, who started Honeybee Network, was not in IIM. He is in one of these corner colleges in an unknown town with a very hostile director. What would Anil Gupta have done? Would he have started Honeybee Network? I would assume, knowing Anil Gupta, wherever he was, he would have been restless. He may not have made such a big Honeybee Network, but he would have gone locally, he would have talked to people, he would have written papers on indigenous innovations, he would have participated in their research conferences, he would have made his institution to be a member of AIMS. If the principal does not go, he would have said, sir, why don't I go? Can you nominate me? And so on. So I think what is lacking is the self-imposed constraints, number one, and lack of initiative. In my book, sir, which I wrote for Golden Jubilee year, Managers Who Make a Difference, I have identified 4 types of managers, 4 types of teachers. Now, teacher, I didn't call them exactly teachers, but I am now applying to teachers. One is syllabus followers. They follow syllabus. The moment they join an institution, what is the syllabus? What do you expect me to teach? I want number of hours, what curriculum, guide, and so on. They are very important. Without syllabus, you can never graduate the students. You are very important. But you will die as a syllabus follower. I'm sure you heard of the jokes of how notes of 50 years ago is being still circulated by students, because if you want to pass this is the teacher and so on. I mean, there are also Telugu films I have seen which circulates the notes of 30 years ago in video cameras and things like that. Then you can't build excellence by that. You are needed. You will only give good percentage, not beyond that. The second one, I said syllabus creators. Now, do you have to follow the syllabus? Whatever you have to teach, you teach. But why don't you create a syllabus? Now, what do I do? There is no curriculum. My institute doesn't allow me. Now, you have seen, for example, there are many Amitabh Bachchan movies. Amitabh Bachchan movie, when he was thrown out as a principal of an institution because he was teaching in a particular way, he set up his own tuition classes, and then he does such a good job, the students start coming there and things like that. So you are a creator of syllabus. If you can create syllabus, why not you teach? If you are passionate about something, why not? I mean, you do. So it is initiative. Third one, visionaries. Now, you are a professor. Besides teaching in MBA, can you go and teach in a school once in a while? And can you write about it? Can you say this is something I am doing? Soon you will find that you are noticed. Your principal cannot ignore you. Community, because you have to do useful work. But most of us are lazy. We want to do only those 300 hours of work, 180 hours of work. And for that, the bad principal is a good excuse for us. I don't have a good principal. I don't have good infrastructure. I don't have good management. Very good. So stay where you are. You can never become excellent. But if you want to be, you have to come out of it. Excellence doesn't mean that finding your number in Financial Times. No, it doesn't matter. It is a matter of your mind. Can you go to any AIMS conference or any conference and say, you fellows are all talking of IIMs. Here is an institution. In my institution, this is what I do. I'll tell you a very interesting story. In the same seminar I mentioned in 1974, we had vice chancellors, directors of institutions, but we also had a polytechnic principal from one polytechnic somewhere in Junagadh. He listened to all that we are saying and he said, sir, very nice, I have learned quite a lot. You have interesting faculty evaluation. But let me tell you in my own way, I ask my faculty to every year in the beginning of the year write their plan for next 1 year. And at the end of the year, we have a faculty seminar, each member presents. And at the end of it, I think each member rates secretly he started talking of things which were amazing, which even IIM Ahmedabad was not doing. He was a polytechnic principal. Because he attended the program, he talked about it. So excellence is not the property of IIMs alone, or IIM Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Calcutta, Indore, or Lucknow. It is, I think you may be a small corner institution. It is a matter of your mind. It is a matter of what some of you as faculty can do. I think rather than all the time saying what you don't have, why don't you look at what you have and say, we want to build excellent students. If I can get 3 more companies, if I can go and organize 3-4 more companies to come here and teach my students, and there may be a placement for them. Next year, the 4 becomes 8. Next year, it becomes 12. So can you therefore not take upon yourself all the burden of not having a good principal and so on? I think it is possible. What is required is the drive. We can do that. So that is what I want to. I appreciate that. There are a lot of constraints, but I think we have to put in effort, take initiative and put in effort.
Excellent information, sir. Thank you very much. Because I know Anil Gupta, and now he is the Padma Shri Awardee also. And when he initiated that Honeybee forum, we all were there in IIM, the IIT Mumbai, in the first Traditional Science and Technology Congress, where he was addressing. We have taken him very lightly. But over a period of time, he came out of the cocoon and tried his level best to create an impact. Finally, he created an impact in the agriculture field. That's why Abdul Kalam recognized him as a good person who has contributed a lot. And as you said very rightly, this you sit there and you expect everything to happen is not possible. You have to go out, go an extra mile and do something that will add value, not only for the society and students, but also for the faculty themselves. As a director or as the faculty or everyone has to go out of the way and do little bit that will create a value. And there is a small observation. Of course, this is a interesting thing, but I would like to ask one thing as how come external bodies like NAC, NIRF, etc. rating our institution? What is their role towards building institutions? Actually, of course, it is Basically, it is a question, but answer is also there within that.
I think they have an important role. First of all, I would like to suggest even AIMS has an important role.
Yes.
You have to do a little bit of lobbying. I think it is important for AIMS to develop your own ranking in favor of small institutions. I think you have to come up. I think it is possible. You have to set criteria, standards, and say, you have 3,500 right now. How many? What is your membership? It is said about 3,500 and odd management schools are there in the country. So I think we should, how about coming up with a framework to lowest of the low institutions in terms of infrastructure, etc., etc. Can we go and then pick up, if you want to put something like the bottom 100 or bottom 50 institutions and develop criteria to build them up slowly one by one? I think if you do that, I don't think NIRF or any of them can ignore this. Unfortunately, sometimes these become elitistic groups and they work in a particular kind of a way. That is where schools like your own, I think if you look at AIMS itself, you see in the beginning how the AIMS was like when Joe and Joe Philip and others have started. But now, right now, it has gone to different corners, isn't it? Like when you were there in Coimbatore, we had about 30 of the faculty. Then we went to visit even, I think Srinivas didn't lose the opportunity. He pulled us out much against our liking. I think these are the kind of initiatives. He was never, he never felt bad, although we were a little inconvenienced at the time, but he took us outside Coimbatore to see how in a corner in a village where it's not accessible, there is an institution that got created and so on. I think that is the kind of initiative. I think it's possible. It's possible to take that.
Of course, one gentleman has mentioned that NIPM, is it a top institution or and one of the respondents also said that it is a body, NIPM, National Institute of Personal Management. Is it a top institution? He asked, but at the same time, one member also responded that it is a body like association, like AIMS.
Yeah, NIPM is the National Institute of Personal Management. There are 3-4 bodies in India, and I think all management school professors should become a member of one or more of these. You have INDAM, I'm sure you can, in the Indian Academy of Management, Association of Management Schools, where I think all schools are normally heads of institutions, I suppose. I don't know what is the way in which you, like, this is a great service you're doing, offering it for all. So NIPM, HRD Network, the ISTD and INDAM. I mean, there are many bodies like this. There are also other professional bodies. Unfortunately, not all of them are active. At one point of time, there used to be the Computer Society for IT people. There used to be Operations Research Society. There used to be, I don't know if there is. No, I want to suggest, if there is no society of your profession, why don't you start one? Yes. Nowadays, it's the easiest thing to do is start a WhatsApp group. And then you can go on, I think, create and it becomes a society. So I think you should do that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. As you suggested, AIMS will definitely consider in setting the criteria for evaluating the institution and its growth and development. It is customary to say, convey my sincere thanks for accepting our invitation. Sir, I would like to say a few things here. As you have set the standards for all the stakeholders, and everyone has to play their own role.
Absolutely.
Directors have to play their positive role. The faculty members have to play their own role. Students too have to recognize their own role. Now, maybe fortunately, because of the COVID, the learning environment has moved from teacher-centric to student-centric learning process to some extent. And alumni, as you mentioned, alumni play a greater role in giving the enough feedback about the institution and board of management, actually, which is very, very important. And they should give more time to the institution so that they can go into the details of running the institution under the stewardship of a particular director or the principal. so that more and more elements can come out, and issues of whether it is a small or big issues of the institution can be addressed with the help of a board. So in that way, all the stakeholders, if they play very positively, I am sure that institution building will definitely possible, and we can see more and more number of institutions of excellence in this particular country. Though we know very well that in spite of having more number of institutions in the country, but very few institutions are well recognized, like IIMs. But we have to go a long way in building these. The session is very, very knowledgeable to them. There are certain takeaways from this. And I sincerely thank for you for accepting our invitation and sharing your knowledge with us. And we also hope that in the days to come, please kindly help us and join now and then and contribute to the growth and development of aims and also the individual and institutional members. As you mentioned in the recently at Coimbatore, we conducted this workshop and the leaders in the making. This is the book actually you mentioned. I request all the participants, please look at this particular book. It is really eye-opener for the faculty members and also others. It is fortunate for me to read this particular book, and in fact, I started influencing the people to write their own stories because they too can become the leaders. They are also the leaders, and there is a methodology in this particular book. So I appeal all the faculty and students, please go through this particular book written by our own guest today. That's Professor T.V. Rao and Anand Agarwal. So with these few words, sir, I once again thank for your acceptance. I also thank all the participants. First time, all 100 participants who are joined live here, and more than 200 to 300 members participated in the YouTube other side. So that shows how important the session is. And thank you very much for being with us. And I would like to say goodbye to all of you. And I request again all of you to please join for the next session the next week. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your kind help and guiding us. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you.